Hello and welcome. Today, Mama Marucci's proudly presents another one of our recipes that works every single time. This is an e-recipe video companion for our Chewy peanut butter and chocolate chip cookies. And let me tell you, they are to die for. My name is David Malik and I'm your chef and host today. These cookies are pretty straightforward, but first what we want to do is we want to preheat our oven, take a sheet pan, in fact take 2 sheet pans, and line them with parchment paper. Parchment paper can be found in any store that sells baking equipment. Next we're going to work with our dry ingredients, which consist of our flour and leavening agents. We're going to take a whisk and we're going to mix in the leavening agent into the flour and make sure that it's well incorporated, because when we add in the flour into our cookie dough, we want the leavening agent to go along with it, and we want it to be well distributed so there's no clumps of it. Next, we take the bowl of a standing mixer, and we're going to add in a little bit of butter there. It's softened already. We have brown sugar and white granulated sugar, as well as our peanut butter. Of course, we can't call it peanut butter cookies without peanut butter, and so there you go. There's the peanut butter. And we're going to also add in a little bit of salt. Now, you don't have to add in salt, but believe it or not, that little bit of salt that you do add makes a huge difference in the final taste of the cookies. If you want to prove it to yourself, make 2 batches, one with salt and one without, and you'll see that there's a huge difference. Now, the bowl goes onto the standing mixer with the paddle attachment, and we start on a slow speed, and we're going to increase the speed and basically do what's known as creaming these ingredients. Now, it not only beats them, but it really does cream them. It makes them creamy, and that's the reason why they call it creaming, not because it beats them up pretty bad. And of course, the only caveat with using a standing mixer is the fact that you have to scrape down the bowl. Now, that's a very small price to pay for the convenience of the standing mixer, but then again, that's the way that it goes. Everything comes with its good and bad points. Once the sides are scraped down, and we do this to make sure that all the ingredients get incorporated, the mixer goes back on, and we're going to quickly go to top speed here and finish creaming the ingredients. Now, you'll see me scrape down the bowl multiple times, in fact 2 or 3 at least in this video, and it's imperative that you do the same. All right? Now, once we've done this, it's now time to add in our other wet ingredients. That's the vanilla, and it's genuine vanilla. I suggest you don't use the imitation, because the imitation is a byproduct of the wood industry, believe it or not. Next, we're going to add in our milk, and I suggest that you use organic milk, as we do at Mama Marucci's. And then finally, we're going to add in a little bit of corn syrup. Now, I'm using good corn syrup. I'm not going to say what brand, but it is not made with high fructose corn syrup. Let's put it that way. It takes a while for it to get in there, but and that's why the reason for the dissolve. But you'll eventually get it in there. And then we're going to add in our eggs, and it's important that we add the eggs in one at a time and wait for the paddle to incorporate the eggs into the batter, or the dough in this case. Because when you do that, and each egg gets incorporated, I can't tell you why, but the fact is that if you do it this way, number one, in the long run, it's going to take less time to make the batter, believe it or not. It doesn't seem that way, but it's true. And it will also allow the cookies to rise better and also spread out more evenly. And of course, as I promised you, we're going to scrape down the bowl of the mixer. And then after this, I believe we're going to add in our dry ingredients, which consist of our flour and leavening agent, and then after that, our chocolate chips. Now, there's a secret to adding the flour in a standing mixer. Once you add it, you don't want to just turn the machine on. You don't even want to turn it on to slow, because you're going to get a cutting board or a bench full of flour. You want to turn it on and pulse it, then turn it off, pulse back and forth until finally the flour becomes incorporated. That way, the flour will tend to stay in the bowl and you won't have a big mess on your hands. Now, that said, you don't want to over mix the flour. Okay, so you just want to mix until it's incorporated. And again, you have to stop the machine and scrape down the sides to make sure all of the flour gets incorporated. Now we're going to add in our chocolate chips, and we're going to mix just to incorporate just a few seconds. Again, you don't want a lot of gluten development. There's going to be some, it's inevitable, but we don't want too much. We don't want the cookies tough, believe it or not. Now, once that's done, we're going to remove the bowl, and we're going to take a spatula, and we're going to mix again. This is a different form of mixing rather than scraping down, because the center of the bowl down at the bottom always has the most difficult time of getting mixed in with the rest of the ingredients. So we're going to mix those up a little bit and take any of that somewhat unmixed batter and incorporate it into the rest of the batter. Now, the batter will thicken up as the flour absorbs the moisture from the wet ingredients. We get our sheet pan, and we're going to use an ice cream scooper, and we're going to make 8 mounds, which amount to 8 cookies. Now, this is a half a sheet pan. In a commercial kitchen, we use a full sheet pan, which would hold 16 cookies, but I've done this with a half sheet pan so that you know exactly what to expect, and you're not dismayed by how many cookies our sheet pans hold. Once you have the 8 mounds, we're going to press them down, not very hard, into hockey puck-like structures, so that they're about a half an inch tall and about 2 or 3 inches wide. Don't worry, they're going to go down further and spread out, and they go into the oven, and this is what they look like half-baked. See how they spread out a little bit? And they get a 180-degree turn, and they go back into the oven, and that's what they look like fully baked. All you got to do now is cool them down, and then while that's happening, go and get yourself a glass of ice-cold milk, and guess what? Enjoy, because they're delicious.